D2C brands have always wanted to know as much as they could about their data, but now there's also an ever-increasing need too for brands to actually bring accountability back to brands versus they've always been buying off of reach and frequency and GRPs, but what's actually happening today. And really that is at the root of what we focus on. We partner with TVSquared to help us do that and really get down to what's happening today versus what's happening in the long term. Instead of waiting for a year to understand how is my marketing budget impacting my business, it's what's happening this week and how can I improve on that so at the end of the year I can make as many improvements as possible.
So what are some KPIs? What are the expectations? What's the range?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of all throughout the funnel. It really starts with just that immediate response. Are people coming to my website or not? And from there, the really cool thing with partnering with TVSquared is you can actually kind of map the whole journey and understand from that initial session, does someone come back to the website and do they actually purchase? And then you can start to tie that back to revenue and start to get that picture of how hard are my media dollars actually working for me.
And what about optimization and planning, and how does that work?
So it's a bit tricky because TV is a little bit more of a whole funnel versus digital. So while we can make optimizations honestly down to the day level, at the same time you do want things to bake a little bit in TV. It's a little bit different than digital where you turn things on and off, but we are making optimizations really regularly, probably weekly.
So explain a little bit about that, about how optimization changes and some strategy around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So with TVSquared, you can actually tell, how are two different creative performing. And if one creative's bombing, you actually now have the leverage of, hey, we can potentially pull back on that creative or maybe pull it all together to optimize your budget and make it work harder for you. And it really goes for the media side of things as well. Starting to find those segments of media that perform the best for you and starting to maybe heavy up in those particular areas where pulling back from those maybe mixes that don't work as well.
What about optimizing through different executions of creative? Is that something that you guys are involved with, or where do you hope that might go?
Absolutely. So our business actually has a full in-house production team, and we've actually valued creative so much that we actually invest in our creative. We know that the variables within creative are actually more of a multiple effect, meaning that if you get a couple variables wrong, that will actually multiply and maybe affect you times 10 instead of, I just got one thing wrong and it hurt times 2. So we're always doing offer testing, testing different banners, testing different CTAs even. Should we drive to a unique URL or just to the main website? And through all of that testing, you start to see how can we make the biggest impact to improve that performance. So there's no lack of data. It's really incredible. This is a great time to be alive, and really it's a blessing and it's a curse. I think a lot of people look at attribution and they're like, we should be able to figure it out. There should be a single silver bullet that solves everything. And at the end of the day, I think that we preach that's not true. We really advocate to try to get as many different models running as possible. So we partner with TVSquared to help us. We actually build our own internal attribution platform. And we also encourage our clients to build their own models. So at the end of the day, you can have as many vantage points as possible. Hopes being, if you only have one model, if it's right or wrong, you don't really have a check and balance. Versus if you have multiple models in place, ACR is another great area. The more basically points you can get kind of aligning, the more confidence you can have in where you should be spending that marketing budget.